everybody. This is Dear Mama Sal, and we are live on this Father's Day. So a very happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, and to all of you who maybe don't have a father anymore, like myself. It's a bittersweet time for us, but we can soldier on with some great memories. And for those of you who maybe your father wasn't your biological family, and maybe the person who was father to you was somebody that you didn't expect at all, and that they all deserve title. Okay, so a very happy Father's Day, and a particular happy Father's Day to Benji. For those of you who know Benji and Judy and the children, they gave birth to baby Leah last night, and it was very exciting, and I'm sure that they will share the pictures with you all pretty soon. I've seen some amazing pictures. And what I said to Judy just now, I was just texting with her, is that I know I'm biased. I understand that. But boy, does she drop some beautiful looking babies. It's just like, and by the way, little baby Leah, in my view, looks just the same as Juliana did when she was born. And it absolutely shocked me. I just took one look at her and went, wow, that's Juliana. So very happy Father's Day to Benji. And, to Judy, I hope that she rests and takes it easy. She, some of you may know, she ended up in OR after the birth because she needed a little bit of attention, and she's fine, but that's after giving birth to then be rushed into ER. I can imagine that was a lot of stress for them, but everybody's fine. Everybody's back to normal, I think, and I'm pretty sure you'll all be seeing all the pictures that you want to see very, very soon. I thought it was really so cute because Benji's daddy sent me a picture of baby Leah this morning, and said, just keep it within the family. And I don't know if you can relate to that, but for Benji's daddy to say, keep it within the family, I just wrote back and said, how kind of you to include me in that sphere, if you like. Jonas, yes, Jonas's great grandmother, amazing, had her 100th birthday today over Zoom. Isn't that wonderful? Something, Jonas? In my lifetime, I did get to talk to somebody who was 100, and when I was in my 20s, so which would be, I think, about the same for you, right? And what amazed me was their memories. She could remember, I was in South Africa at the time, and she could remember when Johannesburg, the capital, not the capital, but the main city, the Pretoria is actually the capital, but she could remember when that was all dirt roads, with no pavements, obviously, or anything like that. And, it was incredible to hear her tell stories about those days. And, you sort of go, wow, I've only ever seen that in movies, but, she lived it and she remembered it, before electricity came to town, and those sort of things. And it was just like amazing memories for her. Anyway, so Jonas, I'm sorry that she doesn't know how old she is, but I'm delighted that she is that she is there and you could celebrate over Zoom. I was thinking about that technology. It must be mind-blowing for her to see that technology. And I was saying this, Jonas, to somebody not so long ago. If you could sit down and watch any of us that are YouTubers edit a video, if you had told me 20 years ago that, Sal, you're going to sit down with a editing program and you're going to be editing movies and soundtracks and, cutting and pasting things and dropping in photographs and dropping in, little comments, And I'd be going, yeah, right. No chance of that happening. I don't have enough time to learn all of that. Guess what? So anyway, I'm glad that you all, I'm hoping that you all anyway are having a wonderful day. Yes, Jonas is saying, but she got to see us even if she didn't exactly grasp what was going on. Yeah, she's probably going, I don't know what's going on, but I better keep smiling, right? So for those of you who might be new watching, welcome, and feel free to watch, and don't worry about if you don't need to comment if you don't want to, but if you do want to, that's awesome. We love to meet you. And what I would say is that just be aware, though, that this particular video will go up and stay up on YouTube after the broadcast, so be careful what you talk about in the chat. If I have any concerns that maybe you don't want that to be public, I will probably ask you, but just take responsibility for what you type up there. Also, be very aware that YouTube is very fussy about language. So I know that my regular viewers don't have to worry about that, but if you happen to be watching and join in, just be careful. All right. Remember to like us. Remember to give us a thumbs up. This is very important. It helps us get more coverage. Remember to subscribe and press the bell thing. The bell thing is about notifications, and it's going to ask you, do you want all of them? I really recommend you say yes, because then if we do an extra broadcast or something, you're going to get an email letting you know. It'll go straight into your inbox. So that's a really important thing. Some people, by the way, have watched us for years without ever commenting, because what we talk about is how to cope with love, life, and other problems in your life. You see, we are like a big extended family if ever you need one. And that is what I love about doing what we do. People come in and out of the broadcast, but they do know if they need a bit of support, they know exactly where to come and they're going to get it. So to me, if you have a subject about which you'd like me to speak, please feel free to let me know at DearMamaSal@gmail.com. I want to tell you, we had some fun on Friday. We learned how to make tea lights out of leftover bits of candle, and it worked very well. And it's one of those things when you do it live. I hope that the viewers enjoyed it. When you're doing it live, it's always much more risky. Anything can happen, but I think that's probably why you guys like to see me do things live, because the chances are, yes, I'm going to have an oops moment. But if there's a subject about which you'd like me to speak, please let me know. And we'll, if it's something that I really do believe that the viewers would like to see, then I will add it to my list. By the way, we're DearMamaSal, one word, on all the obvious platforms. However, on Instagram, I didn't think that I was going to need Instagram when I started up. I was wrong. And so somebody took my name before I could register it. So on Instagram, it is all one word, The Real DearMamaSal. And Jodie's normally very good about cutting and pasting that one up for me. So, it's just like, it's the real one, not just the one who took it. There you go. Thanks very much, Jodie. You're wonderful. The Real DearMamaSal, all one word. And for those of you who are in the room, why is it highlighted? Just every time my name gets mentioned, it highlights it. It's wonderful. We like that. So today I thought we'd do some quotes about Father's Day, but before we do, I wanted to just let you know, if I can find it somewhere here, I've got a slide with some really interesting factoids on it. What did I do with it? Come on. Yep. So we know it's Father's Day, and we know that it is baby Leo's first full day. It's also the June solstice, which means it's the longest day of the year. Or if you happen to be south of the equator, then it's the shortest day of the year because you're in winter and you're going to be heading towards summer. Yay! We're heading towards winter, so enjoy every day that you've got. And by the way, if you happen to be in Asia, like India or the Far East there, if you happen to be there, I don't know if you know, but there's a rare solstice eclipse going on right now, I believe. Yeah, anyway, so I'm be very interested to see those pictures from people, but it can only be seen in Asia as far as I know. So let's get ahead. And anybody got any news, views, or updates about which I should know, or in which case we will take some notes and try and get them organized. And that means that Jody, our admin, will take incredibly good notes, which she does, and then follow up with me afterwards, which she does. I love it when people make me look good, really. What a pleasure. By the way, I thought I'd let you know that I am yet again, just in passing before I get on to that, I am actually drying out some more tomatoes. And for what I do is when I get my new tomatoes in, I just cut up my ones that I've got left in my fridge, and then just I dry those out. And it's amazing how long tomatoes take. They've got a lot of moisture in them. So they'll be doing more after the broadcast. Very easy. I just literally put them on paper towel, and then about every 6 hours, I turn them over again, just to make sure that they're getting evenly dried out. And but it works. So that's the main thing. They say that a dad is a son's first hero and a daughter's first love. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge Erin and Yvonne, who both lost their daddies this past year. And, you know, the first Father's Day without them will be very difficult. We know that. But I think to remember that your daddy was your first love, and in some ways always will be. He was probably the first person you trusted, first man that you trusted. And for some people, maybe the last one that you trusted. You know what I mean? It's just amazing. Okay, so Jeannie, and for those of you who don't know, Jeannie and York went through a devastating fire of their home, and they're living in a hotel at the moment while things are getting ready to demolish everything and then rebuild it. Jeannie's saying York, her husband, York and I went out to brunch with John, York's son. Someone heard about our home and anonymously paid for you the meal. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, Jody, you're right. Forgive me, I had forgotten that Lionel, of course, lost his daddy very recently as well. I don't know why I kept thinking there's somebody else and I don't know who it is. Yeah, thank you. And for reminding me, that's good teamwork. I appreciate that, Jody. You know I'd be devastated if I didn't mention that. It's wonderful, isn't it, Jeannie, that you're learning to receive. I know it's difficult, but it's wonderful that you've been giving this opportunity in your life. They say that the power of a dad in a child's life is unmatched. Now, for some of you out there, you might not ever have known your daddy, or maybe you knew him, but not for very long, as was my case. And I didn't meet my father again until he left when I was 4, and I didn't actually meet him again until I was in my 30s. That was quite a shock to my system. I don't mind telling you. And I also keep saying to people, please remember that not everybody has good memories of fathers. And, some were abusive and some still are. So just, take a deep breath. It still is Father's Day. And there's one thing you can't get away from is if they are your father, then they are your father. I always said that. Right, Jonas is saying, hey, Jeannie, that must have felt amazing. I love hearing about anonymous acts of altruism. I think, have you ever done any, Jonas? I love it when I love it when I can quietly pay for somebody's coffee, and I will say to the server, please do not change your facial expressions, but just take for the person that's behind me as well. And I will walk away and smiling because I know it's they're going to be going, what? Who? But she doesn't even know me. And I'm going, that's my joy. All right. Kerry saying, my dad wasn't a good dad. I've got no good memories of him. Yeah, exactly. But he's still, be it that he's passed, Kerry, he still was your father, right? And so let us hope that he's learned the lessons he needed to learn now. Yeah, Jeannie's saying my dad was a wonderful gentleman, soft-spoken, adored family. Yeah, you see, totally different realities for people. William Shakespeare said, it's a wise father that knows his own child. I think one of the most difficult things for fathers is to watch their children develop in totally different ways. And, I'm pretty certain that, they sometimes sit there and go, wow, are these really mine? They're either way more intelligent than they ever imagined they would be, or they are way more creative or whatever. Yes, Jeannie's saying I was daddy's girl. And, they do say, Jeannie, that, most daughters are, and that it's just one of those things. And, I think about the Travis family of 6 now, with 4 daughters. Who would have thunk it? It's incredible. And, I think we all wished at some level that Benji would get the son he always wanted. But the truth is this, they are going to really look after baby Leah like you cannot imagine. And there's no regret about the fact she is female. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, it wasn't in the cards, so let's get on with making her a wonderful human being. And they've done such a great job with the other 3 children that, I have no doubt they will do the same with baby Leah. George Herbert said, one father is more than 100 schoolmasters. How many of you can remember things that your daddy taught you? And maybe we can have some feedback on that. I ended up with a stepfather, and he was the most hands-off stepfather you could imagine. Yeah, Jody's saying, my daddy was my first love indeed, loved by so many, looked up to, and had a wonderful sense of humor. He thought of himself last, took care of those around him, and would do anything for anyone. Yeah, and look at you, Jody. How many masks have you made for charity now? It's just like there's some. Perhaps we should talk about that. What traits have you taken on, from your father? I definitely did not take on his ability in languages. My father spoke 5 languages fluently. By the way, he also was incredibly intelligent, but he also was eccentric. And so, there are a few things that I'm hoping I do not demonstrate. But he was very frugal, which is interesting. I definitely didn't. I didn't inherit that, although I do love saving money, as you know. I love sharing things with you where I've learned to save some money. So what did my stepfather teach me? I think my stepfather taught me generosity, because he took us on, 3 children, took 3 children on and gave us, the best education money could buy. And, if I needed a horse, I got one. You know what I mean? I lived on a farm of 3,000 acres, and I could go out in the morning on my horse and not be back until the evening and be happy as a clam. And I'm certain that, everybody in the house was happy that I left and was gone for the day. But in those days, we didn't think twice about it, did we? So that's the amazing thing, that it's different today. And it's really funny because I find that, we all teach each other such incredible things these days. I thought this was nice, that Dimitri the Stoneheart said, "A father doesn't tell you that he loves you. He shows you." And, I've always said that about men in my life, which is, please don't tell me you love me. Just show me. It's fine. You don't have to tell me. Just show me that you do. Yeah, Kerry's saying that her father taught her never to be dependent on him because he was totally unreliable. Yeah, so some of the first lessons you learned that were not pleasant ones came from your father. I understand that, Kerry. Jodie is saying the traits of her father were humor, giving to others, cooking, planning for the future, making the most of every day. I remember most his love of making people laugh. Isn't that beautiful? And, whatever your memories are, that we were given those memories for a reason, all right, to hold on to and remember. So whether the memories are good or bad, the truth is that they are your memories and they were given to you for a good reason. Kerry, I'm pretty certain you're a lot more cautious around men because you did not have rose-colored glasses about, what that looked like. To you, you knew they could be unreliable, so you weren't devastated when somebody was. It was just like same old, same old. So I think it's really interesting if we can look back and go, hey, it wasn't great, but I learned a lot. Fanny Fern said to her, the name of father was another name for love. I cannot remember ever doing anything with my father, my stepfather. He wasn't that sort of a guy. But I can remember, isn't it strange? I can remember that he, and this is old school for a lot of you, but remember this was England and he was English gentry. We sort of lived in a mini Downton Abbey type thing. And he, every Tuesday, went to his club, men only, obviously, in those days, and no women were allowed. And I remember I was in town and something happened to me that scared me. And I remember, you're not going to be surprised about this one, actually going to the club and knocking on the door and saying, is my daddy here? And I wasn't allowed to go find him, because that's not allowed in the rules, but they had me sit in the foyer area. And the guy said to me, let me go and find your daddy for you. And I said, thank you. And it was amazing because he came out, and although he was obviously having brandy and cigars with the boys, he just took one look at me and said, what's wrong? And I told him. And he said, let me get us home. And he literally, just popped in and said goodbye to everybody and then came and took me home. And it was just such an act of love. It wasn't okay, hold on, I'm going to be here for another hour or so. It was just, let me say goodbye and I'm going to take you home. So, by the way, I want to apologize if you can hear I'm stuffed up. I did take antihistamine and everything, but there is a storm coming in, and you know what that does to me. Jeannie's saying that her dad was a hard worker. As a young man, he gave his whole salary to his mother. Wow. He worked near the docks and used to get fresh fish from the fishermen. Yeah. Kerry's saying, I have a hard time trusting people, especially men. Yes, that's because you had no reason to learn trust. Totally understand that. I thought this was nice. Linda Poindexter said, when my father didn't have my hand, he had my back. Isn't that beautiful? And I'm not sure who said this, but it is said that a father is someone you look up to, no matter how tall you grow. And this is true of all people, but the greatest mark of a father is how he treats his children when nobody is looking. And, I would say that is of a human being. I don't think that's gender-based at all. I don't know about you, but if ever there is a really badly behaved child in the supermarket, I have been known to walk up to them and look them straight in the eyes and say, you may want to stop doing that now. And how many of you can imagine me doing that? And 9 times out of 10, the mothers look at me because they sort of go, right. The mothers look at me and thank me. But, every now and then I'll come across one saying, don't you tell my child. I go, sorry, just trying to help. And how many of you remember this in a song? Fathers, be good to your daughters. You are the God and the weight of her world. John Mayer, of course. So, it is amazing how influenced we are by the men in our lives, starting with our fathers. I thought this was lovely. This is by Liza Minnelli. She said, my father gave me my dreams. Thanks to him, I could see the future. Jeannie's saying that her father was the youngest of 10 children. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And how many of you, even though your father may have passed, can still hear him guiding you? I'm pretty sure that some of you can feel that. It is said that dads are the most ordinary men turned by love into heroes, adventurers, storytellers, and singers of song. Did your daddy have any special talents, that you would like to share? Were they good at carpentry? Were they really good at, using their hands and painting, or, whatever it was that they were really good at? My father, my stepfather, was a gentleman farmer. As I said, he's, sort of Downton Abbey type. But I was thinking about my real father, who I got to meet again in my 30s. He was very talented in a lot of cerebral ways, but, just wasn't very talented about being in the modern world at all. Yeah, I can remember that. All right, so Jodie's saying, I remember this, talking of her daddy, I remember him telling me the story of the night I was born, the stuffed pink bunny he bought, the roses for my mom, and he said, we prayed for you, and you are our miracle. Pretty nice, huh? All right, Carrie saying, I'm struggling today with the weight of emotions, and July 3rd will also be a trying day because he passed them. Carrie, my greatest wish for you is for you to not celebrate those days. Don't even worry about July 3rd. Find another reason. It's my sister's birthday, Carrie. Celebrate that. Don't worry about that he passed, right? So what I'm saying to you is, you don't have to grieve anymore. You've been grieving a long time for a father you never had. And so, to me, it's like, let him go. And let him go on to learn his lessons. And if you believe in reincarnation, that he comes back and learns more. I'm certain that he, a lot of people, if you ask them, they would do some things a lot more differently. They just didn't know any better at the time. Jeannie's saying the best thing he used to say: if you are highly intelligent but not smart in the ways of the world, you cannot succeed. Yeah, I agree with you. I've met plenty of people in my lifetime that had degrees coming out, the yin yangs. But guess what? No common sense at all. How about the Sigmund Freud, the philosopher, said, I cannot think of any need in childhood as strong as the need for a father's protection. Right? And that is the interesting thing, right? How many of you can remember your father as the protector? Now, some of you have quite the opposite. Maybe somebody listening on the replay or something, where your father was an abuser rather than a protector. But let's just keep it on. There are people for whom just their father made them feel safe. And that is the role of a father, to be the rock that we all desperately need in our lives. And some of us were lucky enough to have that rock, and some of us were not. And, we can still be very, very successful people. We just need to do things slightly differently. No one in this world can love a girl more than her father. Now, some of you will have been lucky enough to have been walked down the aisle by your father. How many of you did that? And for those of you watching on the replay, perhaps let me have your memories of that, if you did that. Kerry's saying about her father, I refuse to grieve for him. There was nothing but a bad chapter in my past. My mom won't let July 3rd go. Yeah, that's, she's holding on for whatever reason. And we cannot know what it is, Kerry, unless she does the work that you're doing. There's some reason she's holding on, unrequited love, whatever it is. But that's her journey, not yours. All right. And so therefore, the other thing is, you may get to a point where you allow her to grieve on that day, but you don't choose to be part of it. That's her right. If she wants to grieve, that's her right, but you don't have to do that. It doesn't matter who my father was. It matters who I remember that he was. Hedy Lamarr, the actress, said, no man I ever met was my father's equal. I never loved any other man as much. How about that? Right? And it was said that my father didn't do anything unusual. He only did what dads are supposed to do: be there. Yeah, and, difficult for those of us who had daddies that weren't there. So, my heart goes out to anybody that has that feeling as I do. Jeannie's saying, my dad was dead before I married York, and I walked down the aisle by myself. Right. That's sad, obviously. I never got walked down the aisle either, Jeannie. I walked down the aisle on my own. Actually, my brother walked me down the aisle. But, I understand that pain. Totally. I don't understand your pain, but I understand the pain of not having a father walk you down the aisle. Yeah. Chelsea Clinton said, my father has always provided me a safe place to land and a hard place from which to launch. That's pretty nice words. So I think that we put fathers on pedestals that sometimes are unfair. You know, we see them with a cloak and a Superman outfit, when really they are just human beings. And some of them did the best they possibly could with the role model they were given. And that also is very scary, right? Because we forget that we didn't see how they grew up and what their role model of being a father was. And so, you know, it's very scary to me. And I think some of you have heard me say that I went out with one boyfriend, and what I said, and he had a 4-year-old son. And after a little while of going out with this guy, I remember saying to him, my greatest fear is that you will teach your son everything that you know about women. It won't take long. But that was literally my biggest fear, that he would teach his son what he knew about women, which was diddly. Yeah, Jeannie's saying, I have stood on my own several times. Sometimes can be difficult to be brave. Yeah, you know something though, it can be difficult, but you also gained a backbone in that. And you know, you have gifts that other people who didn't stand on their own won't have. I'm not sure who said this, but it is said that a father is neither an anchor to hold us back, nor a sail to take us there, but a guiding light whose love shows the way. And I think one of the greatest things to know as you grow up is that if you didn't have the greatest father in the world, you can always find a replacement. And when I say a replacement, I am amazed how much joy I have had. You know, I never had children, but I inherited them. You know, they came to me. You know, if you think about it, I have about 6 different people in my life that adopted me as their mom, even though I've never had children. And what I know about children is downright dangerous, about babies anyway. And, you know, but the thing is this, that it doesn't mean you can't have that joy, right? If your father wasn't the perfect father, then find a role model. You know, somebody that to you is the perfect father, and say, hey, do me a big favor. Please do me a big favor. You know, before I die, I'd love to have a father that loves me the way I see you love your children. Can I be one of your children for the next decade? You know, and it's the same thing if you remember at Christmas time, Dougie's friend sat there at the Christmas table and just looked at me and said, can I adopt you as my mother? You know, and it was just like, it was so, no, I think, you know, he didn't say that. He said, I just want to let you know I've just become one of your sons. And I remember looking at him and saying, do I get any input on this? Just like a matter of interest, you know? He said, no. I said, oh, okay. So, you know, it's like, don't feel that you cannot have that role model in your life, because you can. You just need to go and ask somebody that you really respect and just say, hey, would you mind being my daddy for the next decade? I don't care how old you are. I really don't care how old you are. If I felt I really needed a male role model, a daddy role model in my life right now, I'd go and find one. I've always done that. Hi, Nyasha. Good to see you. A father is a friend upon whom we can always rely. In our hour of need, when all else fails, we remember him, upon whose knees we sat when we were children, and who soothed our sorrows. And even though he may be unable to assist us, his mere presence serves to comfort and strengthen us. Emile Gabreau said that. Isn't that beautiful? When you need real understanding, when you need someone to care, when you need someone to guide you, a father is always there. How many of you found your father's less judgmental than your mother? What a father says to his children is not heard by the world, but it will be heard by prosperity. I think that we have incredible memories in our life, maybe not of our own father, but other people's fathers. And I can think of so many fathers that I have met along the way that I don't mind telling you, I actually went, wow, is that what a father looks like? That is beautiful. Um, oh, Beth is saying sometimes when I'm driving my car, I glance at my rear view mirror and remember my dad sitting in the back teaching me how to drive, saying both hands on the wheel, Beth. He is always with me. Yeah, isn't that beautiful? How about this? A father is a man who expects his son to be a good man, the one he meant to be. A dad taught me everything I know. Unfortunately, he didn't. He didn't teach me. Yeah, like some lessons we learn vicariously, right? But there again, it was also said a dad taught me everything I know, and unfortunately, he didn't teach me everything he knew. Right? He didn't last long enough to be able to teach everything that he knew. I think one of the great things I love about watching Benji and the girls is what he's teaching them about, healthy eating, about survival, how to grow a garden, how to grow vegetables, self-sustaining stuff. But I also have to say that one of the things that blows me away is how often he will take one of the children with him on a flight to New York. All right, he's got a major business deal that he needs to do for Jody, and he'll take one of the girls with him. And to me, I don't know many business people who would do that. And the joy that he gets from doing it as well. And so I often get to talk to him when he's away, and I'm texting with him, and I'm finding out how Mia's doing, or Kira, or how's Juliana enjoying LA, all those sort of things. I think it's wonderful. Yes, just saying it saddens me that I cannot speak good of my dad. He insulted me for years, but in the back of my mind and heart, I always love him. Yes, that's the best you can do. Right? He may not be perfect, but he is still your dad. Good. A good father is one whose only reason for putting down a laughing baby, is to pick up a crying one. This is an observation by Jerry Seinfeld, and I've got to agree with him. You can tell what was the best year of your father's life because they seem to freeze that clothing style and ride it out. How many of you found that to be true? That they got to a certain age and then they held on to that clothing style and then they didn't change it. Now, some of them were forced to change it out of the 70s. I got to tell you that. you know, I was amazed how many clothes, My father still had from the 70s, and it was just like, no, Daddy, you're never going to wear those again. We hope. And can any of you remember your father wearing the clothes of the 70s? I mean, how did we get away with it? When I think about it, it was just mind-blowing, really, that fashion took us there. But men were wearing pink suits and orange suits and striped suits and, gaudy suits. And, it was just amazing. And the bell-bottom trousers, I remember, and it was just, and then the Afro hairstyles. Yeah, those were the days. I'm glad I don't know too many people that kept on, but I still do say that I'm amazed how many people still have the hippie haircuts and things like that. That to me is like, and until that generation, that people like Woody Nelson, kept his long hair for the rest of his life. Yeah. So, Nyasha, thank you for the kind wishes for Benji and baby Leah. She's really amazing to look at. And, Judy had to be rushed to OR, but she's fine. I just spoke to her quickly before I came on the broadcast. By the time a man realizes that maybe his father was right, he usually has a son who thinks he's wrong. And that is so true. Jeannie's saying that my dad was my biggest cheerleader. Thought I could do anything. Once I took a job where I needed to know bookkeeping, Daddy introduced me to a bookkeeper, and in 2 days, I knew the basics. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I think, that you obviously are very grateful for the great role model that you had. Being a great father is like shaving. No matter how good you shave today, bad English, you have to do it again tomorrow. Yeah. Mario Como said, I talk and talk and talk. And I haven't taught people in 50 years what my father taught by example in 1 week. Yeah, I think his kids are doing pretty well. When you're young, you think your dad is Superman. And then you grow up and you realize he's just a regular guy who wears a cape. Hillary Little said, dads are like chocolate chip cookies. They may have chips or be totally nutty, but they're sweet and they made the world a better place, especially for their children. And that brings me to my next question. How many of you had fathers who were fathers to the neighborhood? Yeah, Jeannie, that's beautiful to hear. Jeannie's saying, I learned real love from the way my dad adored my mom. Yeah. And that is the greatest role model you can see, especially, for sons. And I remember hearing one stepdad, one dad that was divorced. And somebody was saying, why are you always so nice to your ex? And he said, because I am the role model for what being a man is to my son. I want to make sure that when life doesn't go the way he expected, he still respects women. I thought that was really good parenting. And how about this one? A father's words are like a thermostat. They set the temperature of the room. And Michael Bublé, the singer, said, fatherhood is the greatest thing that can ever happen. You can't explain it until it happens. It's like telling somebody what water feels like before they've ever been for a swim. And I cannot imagine what the dichotomy of emotions must have been for Benji, that, you know, 1 minute he's holding the brand new baby Leah and he's watching Judy be rushed to OR. You know, that must have been, and I will get to talk to him about that and how he dealt with that, because that must have been so difficult to be able to balance those two, that incredible joy and that incredible fear all at the same time. Now, some of you might not know this man, but Spike Milligan was one of the goons of the Goon Show, and he really was very weird. But he said, my father had a profound influence on me. He was a lunatic. You know, it's just like, yeah. I can remember a story about Spike Milligan. And he phoned up the local Safeway or whatever it is in your neck of the woods, but the local supermarket. And he said, I wonder if you could send somebody over to take an order. And they said, sure, Mr. Milligan, we'd gladly do that. And they sent somebody over because he was a very well-known person. And, you know, in those days, they didn't have online shopping, obviously. The guy knocked on the door and said, hi, Mr. Milligan, I'm here to take an order. And he said, good, go away. He didn't use those two words. But, you know, it was like, yeah, he gave them an order. That tells you what sort of a mind he had. How about this one? A man never stands as tall as when he kneels to help a child. And perhaps for those of you who have had husbands and children, what is your favorite memory of your husband doing something for one of the children? That would be interesting to hear. Um, and this one, I believe, is very, very true. The greatest thing a father can do for his children is to love their mother. Right? Because if you think about it, if you had a father who doted on your mother, it would have taught you what real love looks like. But if you saw the opposite, you know, how can you possibly learn what love is? It is said that a happy family is a reflection of a good father and a loving husband. I think that takes some of the responsibility off women, but so I'm not too happy about that, but never mind. Reed Markham said the thrill of being a great father is not seeing your children go on to become successful adults. The thrill of a great father is the journey, experiencing your child's successes along the pathway to their greatness. I think it's really, really interesting how that is the mark, right? Which is to be able to continue to to support emotionally and be the cheerleader for your son or daughter, even when they're doing things that you don't want them to do. I think that's really the true measure of, I've said if, there have been a couple of times, be it with Benji or with Doug, who you all, oh, by the way, Doug is asked to say hello to you all. I was speaking to Doug this morning and he said, can you say hi to the peeps for me? And I said, you bet I will. Be my pleasure. But when they've been doing something that I didn't approve of, I always say to them, hey, something? I have to tell you that's not my idea of good behavior, but it's your life. And I will still be here. I can't condone what you're doing, but I will still be here. I'll just be a bit quieter for a while, But I'm not letting you go. I'm just going to stand in the background for a while you sort that next phase of your life out. Right. It's interesting, Niesha saying about Benji and Judy. She said, I don't know if I alone did this as a subscriber, but I was up all night last night just waiting to hear the news of the arrival. And when I got confirmation, I was like, oh, okay, I can go to sleep now. I was the same, Niesha, I can assure you. And the most amazing thing is that I was told very early on. And that to me is, as you know, I'm not a biological mum to Benji, but I heard very early on. And he sent me, the most gorgeous picture of her. And I just cried. So I don't mind telling you that. A man's worth is measured by how he parents his children, what he gives them, what he keeps away from them, the lessons he teaches them, and the lessons he allows them to learn on their own. Yeah, how many of you had fathers that were not overly protective, that they actually trusted you to make mistakes and learn from them? I think that's an interesting concept. Jody's saying hello back to Daggy, such kindness in his smile. Yeah, and his eyes, because that's who he is. You're right. It's interesting, the Ash is saying, but when I heard that Judy had to go to OR, I was saddened. I hope she's all right. She is. I spoke to her just before I started the broadcast. And Benji, if you're watching this, Niesha says, all the best to you. And tell Judy I say speedy recovery. I'm certain that there are a million of us that are feeling the same way, Niesha. We're just so happy that she is okay and that baby Leah is okay. And quite honestly, I've said this and I will continue to say it. I just don't understand how Judy drops such beautiful babies. You know what I mean? They seem to arrive looking like they're already 3 months old. They don't look like brand new babies. I just looked at baby Leah. I went, how gorgeous is she? I mean, she really was gorgeous. And I'm biased, I understand that, but I really don't like the look of newborn babies. But I want to tell you, when you see that picture of her, that first picture that I saw, you're just going to cry because she just is so adorable. The reward of child rearing, is spending the rest of your life proudly knowing this person you helped guide. I wonder how many sit back when they run and go, I was part of this. All right? I was part of this. I gave my input to this human being. That is, my making. It must be such an incredible feeling. And Reed Markham again said that great fathers don't find fault. Great fathers find solutions. And did any of you have fathers who did not treat you like a girl? That treated you like a human being. In other words, if you wanted to use power tools, they were only too happy to teach you. If you wanted to do fishing, they'd be only too happy to take you fishing. They didn't sort of think that you needed to play with Barbie dolls and be in the kitchen. They just really, you wanted a drum set, regardless of how painful that was going to be to their ears, they got you the drum set anyway. And, I think that to me is amazing. When a father can just go, that is who you want to be. John Gregory Brown said there is something like a line of gold thread running through a man's words when he talks to his daughter. And gradually over the year, it gets to be long enough for you to pick up in your own hands and weave it into a cloth that feels like love itself. And I thought this was a magical quote. It said, the only thing better than having a husband is having our children have you as a daddy. I want to tell you, I don't think I have ever gone to visit Benji and Judy that I haven't sat there in awe of Benji. Just watching him with the children, how he teaches them, what he allows them to do. But interesting, Jody was taught ice fishing. I went fishing with my dad quite a bit, ice fishing too. He loves spending that time. I love spending that time with him. Yes. So anybody else got memories of doing stuff that weren't girly things? Or if you happen to be male and watching that weren't, how many fathers would allow their sons to play with dolls, for example? I wonder. Or experiment with makeup. I don't know about you, but I was seeing a lovely picture of LeBron James, all 7 foot, whatever he is, he's huge, isn't he? And he's on the ground, and his daughter, his daughter is busy doing his hair with a kiddie's blow dryer. And you can just see LeBron James' eyes. It's like, this could take a while. One of the things that my stepfather taught me, for which I am forever grateful, is he taught me how to carve meat, right? And he taught me how to carve thin slices of meat. And it's really interesting because even to this day, I've got certain people that I visit and they know I can carve well. And I know that at least one household, if I visit them for Christmas, which I occasionally do, they never, ever even think twice. They go, okay, Sal's going to be carving. And I go, why? And they say, because who can carve a turkey the way you can? Nobody here. So Jeannie's saying, my dad worked in the meat industry. And we would go into the meat freezers. Wow, where the big carcasses would hang. That's amazing. Well, wait for the rest of that story. So, you look at it and you go, we each have, incredible memories. I can remember that, I grew up on a farm. So one of the great things I can remember was out there helping turn the bales of hay into a haystack. Now, I want to tell you that's tough work. And, I couldn't do it for very long because, I didn't have the strength. But boy, he always let me try. He always let me lift a couple of them until I got tired. And I always remember that. And one of my fond memories of my stepfather as well was that he really loved asparagus. And every year he grew this incredible asparagus bed. And I would walk with him to go cut the asparagus. It was really funny. I can't remember walking with him to cut any other vegetables, but I always walked with him when he went to get the asparagus. We had a massive kitchen garden in where I grew up. It looked like Versailles. You know what I mean? If ever you've seen those pictures of gardens with those low hedges, the privet hedges, the low ones, it looked like a total Versailles with a beautifully trimmed little privet hedges all around it. And, we had all the different vegetables in different areas. And I just remember going to that special place where the asparagus were kept. Jeannie's saying that her father, before she was born, he would pick out heads of cattle, and later he worked in a meat packing firm. Wow. So meat was his life, really. I bet you learned a lot about carving and, good cuts of meat and so forth, Jeannie. Yeah, she said, so we always had meat and fish. Yes, because we lived on a big farm. We always had meat as well. And, it was like a really good education to learn how to, that's what I remember is watching him carve the Sunday roast, and is a great memory for me. How about this one? I never knew how much I loved your daddy until I saw how much he loved you. That's a beautiful one, right? And if any of you are lucky enough to have grandfathers still alive, a grandfather is someone with silver in his hair and gold in his heart. And this quote said, "My father gave me the greatest gift anyone could give another person. He believed in me." And this brings tears to my eyes just reading it, but it's so true, isn't it? It's like one of the most powerful hand clasps is that of a newborn grandbaby around the finger of the grandfather. Jeannie's saying that unfortunately her mother cooked steaks to death. I couldn't have rare steak until I was in my 20s. Well, it's funny, Jeannie, because my son, Dougie, when I first met him, he could not eat a medium rare steak. Right? It's just like it had to be cooked to death as well. And I think, because he grew up in Africa, and that was, there was a whole different thing about meat being properly cooked. And so it's quite funny because now, 20 years later, he can actually handle a medium rare steak. And I go, wow, you have grown a lot, my son. It's just like, I remember the days when I had to broil it, and then cook it some more. Mind you, I must say that my favorite steak of all time is a Chicago steak, which is crusty on the outside and then medium rare on the inside. It's just like, there's something about that crunchy on the outside and just still medium rare on the inside that to me is the greatest steak. To a small child, the perfect granddad is unafraid of big dogs or fierce storms, but absolutely terrified of the word pooh. And Henry Ward Beecher said, "We never know the love of a parent until we become parents ourselves." Linda Marie Child said, "Blessed indeed is the man who hears many gentle voices call him Father." And one guy said that my father gave me the greatest gift anyone can give another person. He believed in me. We've had that already, right? When you teach your son, you teach your son's son. True, right? That's why I'm saying that if you have got males in your life that are not the perfect role models, it is because they were not given a perfect role model. Thanks, Jody. And I thought this was rather cute. There are 3 stages of a man's life. He believes in Santa Claus. He doesn't believe in Santa Claus. He is Santa Claus. Oh, that's beautiful. All right, so Jody just reminded me that I need to do the countdown, which I have got all ready for you guys. Let me get back to the beginning here. We are 9 months and 16 days away from Easter. We are just 7 months and 27 days away from Valentine's Day. Christmas is only 186 days away. Not very much, people. That means we need to get our Christmas cards into the mail within 5 months and 12 days. So start thinking about that. Get the addresses together. US Thanksgiving is being elusive to me. There we go. 5 months and 1 week. Wow, that's not very far, is it? And we're going to put the clocks back in the Northern Hemisphere in 133 days, which means that in 133 days, those of you living south of the equator will be putting yours forward if you are on daylight savings time. By the way, Canadian Thanksgiving is only 3 months and 22 days away. We do it in October. It's not very far away. It's a season. Scary. For those of you who understand about Mercury being in retrograde, we've got it in retrograde until July the 12th. So take a lot of deep breaths. Whatever's happening that's going really weird in your life, just go, it's okay. Mercury's in retrograde. And, as soon as it gets out of doing retrograde, things will start falling into place again. So today is the longest day of the year, or if you're south of the equator, the shortest of the year. And summer is here. And therefore, in south of the equator, winter is upon you. So let me ask you all, the weather has been really strange here in southern British Columbia. We sort of had an early spring, and then we had this really strange weather come in. And we seem to have had the whole of June has been very up and down weather. It's just like, doesn't know what to do. But it's been very oppressive weather, which we don't normally have. But boy, I'm looking forward to some sun. Now, I do want to tell you that this being pretty early on in my journey here, right now, okay, I got to just do the math on this one. Hold on, I just want to cheat here. It is yeah, inside my house right now, apparently is 93 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, let me just make sure I got the right calculation here. Yeah, about 34, even closer to 35 in centigrade. And we're not even in summer yet. How many of you know I've got to make a plan here? Look at the sun streaming through. Now there is a blind that I can close up there, but I don't know how to close it. All right, so Jeannie's saying when her uncles came to Maine, he would buy them moxie to drink. It's a Maine drink. And lots of people think it tastes like medicine. I don't think I've ever had moxie, but I could be wrong. So just for the record, I have now been in the house 5 months and 11 days. And I'm about to move into my almost out of my second season here. That is quite amazing, isn't it? So time goes by quickly. Let's forget that. If you're lucky enough to still have a father alive and you love him, make sure you keep telling him that. Make sure that he has no doubt in his mind that you love him. If you are in that unfortunate position where you were unable to thank your father, forgive yourself, because that happens. Billy Graham said that a good father is one of the most unsung, unpraised, unnoticed, and yet one of the most valuable assets to our society. There is nothing more loving than a father's soul. There is nothing that moves a loving father's soul quite like his child's cry. I have memories of Benji texting me one day, and I said, "Where are you?" And because he was asking me some interesting questions, and I knew something wasn't right in his life. And he said that he was sitting on the floor in Juliana's room. No, it was with the twins. And one of the twins was having a conniption. And he had done everything he knew how. But he knew that he had to just let her cry it out. And he was telling me just how painful that was to listen to. Not because it was frustrating, just the agony of it was so difficult to hold. And not go and comfort her, but to let her cry it out was so difficult. Okay, so Jeannie's saying, my dad died of a second heart attack and an enlarged heart. Not surprising, he was all heart. Yeah. And how about this one? Every great achiever is inspired by a great mentor. And some of you are lucky enough to maybe have an uncle that acted as a surrogate father for you. And make sure, if that's what you feel, that they know what a great job they did. Because we sort of remember that, it takes a village to bring up children, right? And so anybody that was in your life that still is around, thank them for being in your life. They've all taught you something. Desmond Tutu said, you don't choose your family. They are God's gift to you. So good or bad, they've been given to you so you can learn those lessons. How about this one? Only the best brothers get promoted to an uncle. And I look at it and go, some of you have been truly blessed with the fathers you were given. And some of you were truly challenged by the fathers you were given. But in the real big scheme of things, it is what it is. And you learned the lessons you needed to learn. And if you are emotionally intelligent, you will understand that who they are surely did have some effect on who you've become, but it is your choice whether you stay that way. And so if any of you unfortunately got some bad parenting from a father, remember it is your responsibility to correct that. To just live the rest of your life blaming your father for what is wrong with you is not adult behavior. That is just too easy. It's like, okay, fine, I didn't get the best parenting, but now let me study what good parenting would have looked like. Let me find out what nurturing would have looked like. Let me find out what a good role model would have looked like. And let me learn again. Because I think that some women end up being father and mother to their children. And that is not an easy task because the two roles are so different in many, many ways. And so for all of you that might be listening that have ended up being mother and father, my heart goes out to you and my thanks go out to you that you carried on doing both jobs instead of just one. And how about this one? John Senior said, "It is admirable for a man to take his son fishing, but there is a special place in heaven for the father who takes his daughter shopping." Barack Obama said, "It's the courage to raise a child that makes you a father." It does take courage, doesn't it? The nature of fatherhood, John Green said, is that you're doing something that you're unqualified to do and then become qualified when you do it. Some of you were lucky enough to have a father that became a father for your friends. I wonder if any of you have memories of that, where, they were the role model for, the friends in your neighborhood. And maybe, your father always made sure they went fishing with you, or your father always made sure that, he taught them to drive as well as you, or whatever it is that you did. I personally think one of the greatest joys is to watch a father watch his child, male or female, balance on a bike for the first time, that the training wheels aren't needed anymore. The absolute joy of that look is amazing, but they don't want to say anything because they don't want the child to lose concentration. But, that is an incredible thing to see. Brad Pitt said, "Fatherhood is the best thing I ever did. It changes your perspective. You can write a book, you can make a movie, you can paint a painting, but having kids is really the most extraordinary thing I have taken on." Victor Hugo said, "Son, brother, father, lover, friend. There is room in the heart for all the affections, as there is room in heaven for all the stars." Hugh Jackman said, "Becoming a father, I think it inevitably changes your perspective of life. Mike Myers, comedian, said, having a kid is like falling in love for the very first time when you're 12, but every day. And William Wordsworth, the poet, said, Father, to God himself we cannot give a holier name. Very true, right? And so I'm hoping that you all understand that Father's Day is just a day. And some of you go, it's all commercialism, and I don't like it. Well, you see, it's up to us how we choose to see it. It is up to us how we choose to process it. I think that Father's Day is a day for us to remember what good things fathers have done, even if they're not your fathers. It is our day to celebrate their lives, even if they weren't the best. And it is, I think, our day to thank them, whether they are here or not, to thank them for what they tried to do. And for some of you, to thank them for changing your life forever for the better. And for some of you, that you will probably spend the rest of your life grieving their loss. But you know, the truth is, it is your turn to be that person for somebody else. You know, maybe it is your lot in life to be that father figure for somebody else. And you're going, but I'm a woman. Well, you know something? There are plenty of women that became father figures for their children. And so what I challenge us all to do is not to put the gender labels on it, but to be that role model as best we can. You know, to take, have you taken somebody else's children, you know, to go somewhere? You know, like you can see that the mother is tired and needs a day off. And, you know, have you said, hey, I've got a present for you. You know, if you will trust me with your children, I'd like to take them for a picnic on Saturday, or I'd like to take them to the science museum, or I'd like to take them, you know, anywhere, but get them out of the house for you for 4 hours. And then you get to be the hero with the Superman cape. And Jody, I'm thinking that all those wonderful masks that you are making, and I keep thinking about the incredible Lionel, and that he is learning how to cut material to support you. You know, that is a wonderful thing, because he knows that is so difficult for you with your arthritis. And, you know, I look at it all and go, such wonderful role models. And I am hoping, you know, that Lionel gets to share his ability to not have an ego around these things. It is really important. Jeannie's saying, I made real meatballs with pasta when my daughter and her friend came over for dinner. The girl had never seen real meatballs made. Really? Did you have anything inside them? I love, you know, putting my finger in and then putting a piece of string cheese in there and then sealing it back up again. So when you go to bite it, you've got, you know, cheese. But then I love cheese. And then, you know, I make stuffed meatballs. Some of them, you know, I will put some, what do you call it? Caramelized onion or something inside. So it's amazing, right? The different things we do with meatballs. Anybody else do anything? And by the way, how many of you roll your meatballs or use breadcrumbs in your meatballs, right? All right, Jeannie's saying the girl was poor and her mother didn't do a lot, right? All right, so Jody's saying of Lionel, I appreciate all his support. I know you do, Jody. It's amazing to me, and he really is getting involved in the process. Yes, he is getting to, it's his contribution to what you are doing. And I bet you he's getting pretty good at it by now. Interesting. Jody makes homemade breadcrumbs soaked in milk. Why? Okay, tell me, why do you soak your breadcrumbs in milk prior to making meatballs? I like my bread on the outside. I like to roll them in breadcrumbs and then bake them. Crunchy. It may be a common thing to do. That's fine. I want to know why. There's a good reason why you should soak. Keeps them moist. Okay, so it's not absorbing the juices. Okay, thank you, Jody. But funny enough, I think that's why I like my breadcrumbs on the outside, not on the inside. Hi, Jamie. So everybody, I hope that you all have a wonderful week. I really do. And I'm looking forward to some good weather that I think is on its way, where hopefully I can get rid of this pow that's going on inside my head at the moment. And I believe that my next challenge is to find out how to make fruit roll-ups. So if any of you are experts at that, let me know. But if not, that's what I'm going to attempt to learn by Friday. Because we're at the season where fruit's going to become very available. And so I was thinking that's a really good thing for us to learn how to make. So Jody, you and I are going to be on a mission to see what we can find. And then I will do the experiment, which means that, it'll either work or it won't. But what I will probably do is to just, do it and show you in principle. It's a pleasure, Jeannie, and to all of you. Just like any other day, be grateful that we all woke up this morning. Be grateful that we have a new life. And as I spoke to Yvonne yesterday, and I said, Yvonne, circle of life, Papa died and Leah gets born. And I said, we need to celebrate just the circle of life. And so whatever your feelings are about Father's Day, it's just a day. And it is up to you whether you suffer or not, right? You see, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. So don't make any day a day that you suffer. It's just a day. If you suffer on a given day, it's because you choose to. And I encourage you not to do that. I encourage you not to grieve a moment longer than you need to, just because society thinks you need to. I encourage you to get on and live a happy, healthy, and productive life. So be grateful that you are alive. Be grateful that you are healthy, if you are. And be grateful that you're as healthy as you are. This is DearMamaSal saying, let's look after one another. Continue to do that. But most of all, please look after yourself. And I will see you later on in the week. I'll see you Friday. This is DearMamaSal saying, this is always the challenging bit. Bye-bye for now. You're still there, aren't you? I can see you. Bye.